Religion is a fact. It's around us all the time, sometimes in unpleasant ways. Can it be explained without God?
Oh, sure. So, religion as a social institution can be explained like any other social institution, political institutions or economic ideologies and structures and businesses and corporations. It's just in that same category. And you can still believe in God and believe that. Where it gets interesting is to look at the sort of the reason for religion. What purpose does it serve? And there we begin to see the sort of human construction, not only of religion, but of God's, as part of a religion. So religion serves important social functions. Its earlier role as explaining the cosmos, which was only ever just a small part of religion, has now been replaced by science. But that doesn't discount religion, clearly not, because it's as strong as it's ever been. So obviously it plays a social role, and then I think evolutionary theory explains this nicely.
In religion, there are you believe something. Belief is the core essence of religion, in a sense. Now, how do we believe? This is a subject you've thought about, written about. How do we believe? As human beings, what are the systems that come into our being that enable us to believe?
Well, clearly how we're raised, who our parents, what our parents believed, our peer groups, our teachers, our mentors, the culture at large. I mean, the predictor of what religion somebody will be on the grandest of scales is what part of the planet were you born in? What century were you born in? That's going to determine pretty much everything. I mean, before 2,000 years ago, or a little bit more, there were no Christians because there was no Christ. So why aren't all Jews Christians? Why don't they accept Jesus as the Messiah and so on? Well, clearly because there's something else going on here other than the evidence and the ontological question of was Jesus really God? And so obviously there's social, cultural, anthropological things at work here. And to me, there's just overwhelming evidence that humans constructed all of this, religion and God, as a belief system.
I like to try to think of belief systems, and help me, at different levels of hierarchy, starting in the most basic, our neurobiology, the way our brains are constructed, then an individual psychology, the sociology of the group, and then the anthropology looking over time and as societies evolved. How do you see this hierarchy, and how does it all fit together in terms of belief systems of religion?
Okay, humans have what I call a belief engine. There's modules in the brain whose function it is to find causal connections between things in the environment. It's called learning. Everybody does it. You have to do it to survive. All animals do it. We do it spectacularly well, but not perfectly well. So we are pattern-seeking animals. So we'll connect A to B to C, and often A really is connected to B, and B really is connected to C. And boy, did that help us survive. I mean, keeping track of when the migrating herds were going to come through next year at this time, or when the fruit was going to be ripe, it's time to pick it. Those are patterns that help us survive. However, we also sometimes find patterns that don't really exist. These are sort of false positives, superstitions. I believe that A is connected to B, meaning if I twirl around 3 times clockwise and twice counterclockwise, the rain gods will spare us the lightning, something like that. Okay, it doesn't cost me much to do that. It's not going to weed me out of the gene pool. So the superstitious tendency, magical thinking we call it, is part of the baggage of being a really good learner, right? A pattern-seeking animal. So the belief engine is part of it.
Connection building.
Connection building. So connecting A to B to C, that's not really there, these false positives. Well, gods are like that. That I infer intention in the part of other agents, like people, or even animals, which traditional peoples believe that animals have intention and they're agents. Believing that gods are intentional agents is just a small step. Part of our magical thinking that fits right in with that, and it doesn't cost us anything, doesn't kill people, doesn't weed them out of the gene pool. So we inherited magical thinking as part of the species.
And do you see that on the individual level or on the social level?
Both. I think it starts at the individual level, in our brains, in our actual brains, reinforced socially by the group.
So if we were isolated on an island, so to speak, as individual human beings, we may come to that feeling or hope or wish or whatever, independent of other people, but then once we're with other people, that would become reinforced?
I think if, say, in the science fiction scenario, we sent a colony of humans off and to start a brand new society on Mars or some other planet, and we saw what happened. You know, would they have government? Would they have religion? And so on. As soon as the group got big enough, yes, they'd have some hierarchical social structure to reinforce the rules of cooperation and punish people that break the rules, and those would be in two forms: something like government, something like religion. Because government and religion are the two social institutions that codify the rules of living together for a social primate species once the populations got too big. You see, as long as we're hunter-gatherer groups of just a couple dozen people, informal shunning and informal means like that work just fine for behavior control. But once you get up into the thousands and tens of thousands, you need some formal institution to do that, and that's what religion does.